So, a while back I made a video when I first got this toilet here. And the reason I got this is because originally here we had a Peerless, I forget exactly what it was, but it was a 1.6 gallon per flush, stupid low flow toilet. And it just sucked. It was a piece of crap, like all low flow toilets. They don't use enough water, they're shit. No pun intended. But anyway, I went ahead and installed this guy. I found this. This is a leaked, I don't know. Tank in here says, looks like 25th March 1985, something like that. This is a proper 3.5 gallon. Yeah, if you clog that up, you're shitting logs. Very professional here. Anyway, I haven't had any problems with this, except for these things. These things suck, and that is going to be the point of today's video. You see, this is the third one of these I've put in here this year, and I've only had this toilet this long. The one that I previously had here, I had to replace these things. These things last like 3 to 6 months. That's about it. It's just a valve, but these things don't last very long. And this one's in the process of failing too. I'm going to let it go ahead and fill here so I can demonstrate. It never truly stops, and it's leaking from there. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and, well, I can't cut the water off. I'm going to go cut the water off under the house because this water doesn't cut off anymore. Anyway, there's two variants of these cheap plastic things. There's this variant, which has a snap-on top, which you cannot really remove at all, and a plastic float arm. And these normally fail in the manner that I'm showing you here. This one will not shut off. It just does this, it will start overflowing through the overflow tube. This is the other variant. This is a metal one. It's got a metal float arm. Now these ones, this one is actually a bit older, and it seems to be holding up fine. This one's like maybe 6 months old. These don't last any longer though. Normally what I see happen is if you look, see how it's not straight? This puts a ton of pressure back on here, and I see one of two things. These two screws will strip out, pop off, and the thing will start spraying water. Or this pivot here, one of these will snap off of there, and that will no longer work. It's probably the same diaphragm in there, but since these are really cheaply made, this breaks first on this one. So the plastic one with the plastic float arm is actually a little better, but not by much. Now right now is about the time where everyone starts jumping up and down and screaming, "Oh, Fluid Master, Fluid Master, throw a Fluid Master in there, Fluid Master, Fluid Master." Okay, we're not going to be installing a Fluid Master. Because those are even worse. Well, they're just as bad. Anyway, we're going to be installing this guy. This is a Mansfield 09. This is something that's actually made properly. I don't know if this is copper or brass or what, but it's got, it's just very basic. And the other thing about this is that you can rebuild it. So you just undo these. And the whole thing comes apart. And then in here, you've got an O-ring here. And that is supposed to be split so you can slide over there. You got an O-ring there. You've got a rubber not gasket, I don't know what that would be called, seal, I don't know, but it's there. And then down in here, I don't know if you can see that white bit, that's a nylon seat. And that unscrews. Now, this is old. I don't know exactly how old this thing is, but this is old. So, I went ahead and bought a rebuild kit. You can see it comes with your washer, your rubber thing, and then that nylon seat. But it actually appears that this rubber, it doesn't feel like it's gone hard or anything. So we're going to try to install it as is, and if I need to, I can install this. I can install these new seals and seats and whatnot. And they still make this. This is here you go, 2021. They still make this rebuild kit. I don't know how long it's been since they made these, but the fact that you can rebuild it, it's basically a lifetime part, because none of this metal's not gonna break like the plastic does. I'm not going to try to reassemble this thing on camera because I got one hand. I'm going to reassemble it and we'll be back. Okay, so first things first, I got to go cut off the water. Alright. Since we got all these stupid polybutylene valves and shit, I can't shut the water off to that one singular toilet in there because none of them work. So I have to come down here. This is a Cooper lighting light fixture here, and it's got, I don't know if you can hear that, it's got the Lights of America style buzz start ballast. Those are always fun. You see here some of our wonderful polybutylene piping that's totally not leaking at all here. This whole fucking house is plumbed in that shit. But this is what we're down here for, to do that. Luckily the supply line isn't polybutylene, so at least when the polybutylene, oh, look at this thing. It's kind of neat. At least the supply line is not that, so that at least when the polybutylene does inevitably start bursting and water is pouring out from underneath the walls and shit, you can at least turn the water off, so that's good. You don't have to run all the way up there to turn it off. Okay, water's off. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna let all this water out of here. I don't know how this angle is. If it's terrible, I apologize. Okay, that's as much water as I can get out of there. Now, where did I put that bucket? I got a bucket here. And I'm inevitably going to get water everywhere. And we just gotta go into this realizing that. Yep, here it comes. Alright. I'm gonna turn on this. There we go. Ah! Thought that was gonna make it better, not worse. Alright. Now, can I get this by hand, or I might have to use a wrench? Alright, I got it by hand, because it's plastic. See? Plastic. Honestly, for something like that, plastic's probably not that bad of an idea. Alright. There goes that water I was talking about. And about a quarter of that made it in the bucket. Here's this guy. We're going to save this. Got like a box of these because I keep replacing these valves, and this float is perfectly fine. I'm a hoarder, so I keep everything. Well, let me see, can I pop this thing open? See what the hell's going on inside of here? Yeah, not really. Anyway, there's that. Alright, so I get the new one. By new one, I mean probably older than the other one by several decades. And this one's got metal. Now this, we're not going to be using, because this is for if you're running a copper line to it. I guess they just assume you are, because, well, back then I guess you were. I'm going to take off this other metal piece, which is our tank bolt nut thing. That stays on there. This rubber's still nice and soft. Now I'm going to take our float arm and put that onto there. And it doesn't look like it's exactly straight in there, but that's how the threads are. So I'm thinking that's by design, because if it were the other way, it'd be angled down. So I think that's how it's supposed to be. Where's my float? I put it somewhere. I'll put the float on the other end of the rod. And now I'm going to put this in here with this knot on it in a direction that does not hit anything. So like right about there. Put this on here, and of course we can adjust this if needed. Alright, I cut that so I can make that adjusted. Try to get a better view. This might have to be adjusted. You adjust this by just bending this rod, but I think this is fine. Now the next problem, not really a problem, is I have to install this thing onto here. And I can tell you right now that this is not long enough. So that's our overflow tube. I'm going to figure something out with that and I'll be back. I might just put a piece of rubber line over it. Okay, so this might not exactly be the most elegant solution, but I bent this as far as I could. That's as long as that is. It needs to go into here. So I bent that to there and just used a little piece of rubber tubing. I think it should work. This is not exactly tight in there. I thought I had it tight, and then turns out it's not exactly tight, so we'll have to see if we leak around here. If we do, then I'm going to have to tighten this up some more and try to bend it some more. But since I already bent this, I'm going to see how this does. Because if I don't have to mangle that tube, I'd rather not. But I do have more of this plastic tube, so if I absolutely have to, I can just cut it off here and run the whole thing in plastic. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I got. I figured we're going out, we're doing copper. We're going to do something. Might as well go all the way with it. So let me remove this. We'll put this on here. We'll have to see if that hits the side here, because if it does, I'm going to have to rotate this whole valve slightly that way. If the rod hits that some, it's fine, but I don't want the float to hit this, because I don't want it to rub through there. Let me go ahead and hook the water line back up. I was about to say we'll go and turn the water back on, but that would be a very bad thing to do without hooking this water line back up. I mean, I'd rather not have water going everywhere. I'm going to go turn the water on. I'm going to go turn the water on. You guys scream if something terrible happens. Spraying? Doesn't appear to be. Water level's about right. I might want to go up a little bit. We'll see where it is when it actually stops. I at least didn't see any leaking, but I think it was mostly above that by the time I got back in here. Doesn't appear that the float's hitting the side either, so that's good. Alright, it's still dripping a little bit, but I'm going to call that mostly stopped. These things do a very slow shut off on them. And the water level is almost perfect. I could play around with bending that rod. I always hit the stop recording button instead of the zoom button, because the zoom button is where the stop recording button on this camera is on my other camera. I could bend the rod a little bit and mess with that water line, but honestly, I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference. This seems to be working fine. I don't really like the look of this rubber tube here, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to flush it. Just make sure that this is... This also fills up a lot quicker than the other one did. We got good water coming out of there. Look how quick that is. Yes, the roar of the Mansfield 09. You don't hear that anymore, do you? Well, despite being probably over 60 years old, it's working beautifully. And something tells me it will last longer in service than the other one ever did. So, now the question is, how much is the cost of this compared to the other ones? Well, the other ones I think are $12 for the other one like I had in here before. A Fluid Master is about $10, about the same price. Now those will only last maybe a year or two at the most. The one like I had in here before will last maybe like 6 months at the most. So I don't think they're really worth that. This cost a lot more. I paid $39 for the valve itself. Because I figured if we're going out, might as well go all the way out. I bought the copper float. That's absolutely not necessary. That was $12. This would have functionally been exactly the same. But, and I know nobody else will care about this. But I like this. This looks great. If I went to somebody's house and I saw this is a statement, nobody else probably looks in toilets, but I do, and I always see these damn Fluid Masters. It's like, that's just really boring, isn't it? Every now and then you'll get lucky and you'll see a plastic ballCOCK like the one I had in here before, but you never see anything like this. And, that's a statement right there. So nobody else will know that's in there, but I will. Anyway, but I think for pretty much a lifetime part, this is like $39, I think I said. I don't remember how much shipping was. It was a little bit more than that. Big departure from the $5.89 it cost originally. But, of course this is new old stock. They do still make a similar one. I believe you can buy it at Ace Hardware. It's certain Ace Hardwares. The local one here didn't have it. But from what I've heard, those aren't good because this has like some sort of coating on it to keep it from corroding. Those apparently don't, so they end up breaking. Rebuild kit, I bought this, was like $7.99. So the way I see it, you buy this and it lasts pretty much forever. And then, every once in a while you have to buy a rebuild kit, which costs about as much as a new Fluid Master. Yes, there's less materials here, but, you're not being wasteful. Here's the part number, if you're interested. So yeah, it's got your new seat, your new everything. I went ahead and bought this now because I didn't know how the seals in this thing would work, because it's probably over 60 years old. So I went ahead and bought that, but I'll save it. I'll use it at some point. I know of one other place that had one of these still in service, and to my knowledge it was never serviced or rebuilt, but it was never serviced or rebuilt, so in over at least a decade, more like 20 years. So we'll see. I'll certainly make an update, or in at least the form of a post, if I have to ever, at some point I will have to, but whenever I have to use that rebuild kit. But there you go. It's working. I suppose I will clean all of this water up off of my floor now, but first I will give you one more flush. There you go. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, you did such a good job at bending that copper tubing. It's not dog-legged, it's not kinked or anything. How did you do that? Well, I used this thing, which I have for bending refrigerant lines. I'm terrible at bending tubing at any proper tubing, pipes, conduit, any of that. I'm terrible at measuring things and bending things, but this somehow came out pretty okay. Of course, it's just a 90, so it's really not that impressive. Anyway, there you go. Maybe you got something out of this video, maybe not. Thank you for watching either way. I will see you in the next one. Well, it's been several hours. I did that before 1 o'clock, around 1 o'clock p.m. today. It is now 10:35, and of course, the Mansfield 09 fill valve from the 1950s is still working perfectly fine. Of course it is. It's going to be working perfectly fine for decades. However, I have experienced a failure already. This. Now this is not vintage. This was brand new. I bought it on Amazon, brand new. And I noticed that I heard a dripping sound. So I look and it's overflowing through the overflow tube, the water in the tank was. So I was like, what the hell's going on? Is this valve leaking? Because I guess I should have known better than to think the vintage item was the problem. I should have known the new item. You know, if there's multiple items, the newer one is probably the problem, and certainly was the case here. So I pulled this off, and yeah, this is full of water. So this is leaking from somewhere. So that's great. So yeah, of course, buy a bunch of, install a part that's at least 50, 60 years old, and it works great. Install something brand new, it's already leaking. In fact, I think I see where it's leaking from. Look. It's like along this seam. I don't know if it's not one solid piece or what's going on here. But it float sunk. So I put the plastic one on there. I guess I should have spent some extra money, and instead of buying a new one, the new old stock vintage one, just like the fill valve, it would have probably been fine. But I decided to save money and buy something new, and as is the case almost every time I buy a new product, it failed. I mean, it's a float. The only thing that this is designed to do is float. You would think they'd be able to make something that floats. Nope. Anyway, rest of it's still working, so whatever.